Trademarks International Treaties and Enforcement Amendment Bill, there is no doubt that it is fundamental for the viability of the international trading market that intellectual property is appropriately protected and observed. And in many respects, that's what this is all about. I absolutely take the point that both Marion Street and the previous speaker made, that the landscape around intellectual property is constantly changing. And that has been the case for hundreds of years in the past, and it will continue to change as we see rapidly and increasingly rapidly evolving technologies. I think, as the Honourable Maurice Williamson so clearly pointed out, counterfeiting behaviour is becoming more and more of a problem internationally, and it is now impinging on the international business markets to the order of hundreds of billions of dollars, and getting worse and worse. But not only that, is the aspect also of the possibility of threats to public safety. And I think he brought up the example of counterfeit helicopter blades, and during the submission period, A.J. Parks pointed that was one of the issues, along with the increasingly rapid evolution of counterfeit medicines going right around the world. I think the Honourable Maurice Williamson's example was an unusual one, but it certainly, with a lot of mainstream medicine, whether it be heart medicine, high blood pressure medicine, blood thinning medicine, a whole variety, all these things have been tried on to the detriment of individuals. Of course, though, underlying this is the protection of IP, and that's why it is so apt and appropriate that we do have the amalgamation of those three treaties, the Nice, the Madrid Protocol, and of course the Singapore Treaty. And I was very interested to note that it aims to make national trademark registration systems more user-friendly and to reduce business compliance costs for trademark owners. And I think it's very salutary that this comes in the name of Singapore. After all, they are so well known for being efficient and effective. In fact, in many respects, that one is one of their trademarks, and something that countries like New Zealand have a lot to learn from. I remember in the committee stages, the Honourable Pete Hodson quoted Elspeth Buchanan as being someone that had some reservations. She's from P.L. Berry and Associates, someone who's spent 40 years in the industry. And I note that one of the areas that she was concerned about was the balance of just how much enforcement you have, because these bills, which are now split into two, do require appropriate enforcement, and yet excesses of enforcement may go too far. P.L. Berry and Elspeth Buchanan cite a recent incident with Customs where the potential dangers to legitimate New Zealand businesses can be eroded. A shipment was stopped because of a suspicion. It breached a customs notice, and the customs officer was unable to make a formal determination that the products were counterfeits, and this caused a delay. Consequently, a whole shipment of goods for Christmas weren't delivered on time, much to the disappointment of the business concerned, and much to the disappointment, of course, to the recipients. So, like all the things in this bill, the intellectual property is a dynamically evolving situation and needs to be revised continually, and this government, of course, is doing exactly that. On the other hand, there is a fine balance between how far one goes in terms of the enforcement, and I think this bill has it about right. So, Mr. Speaker, it is with great pleasure that I commend this bill to the House.
I call Catherine Delahunty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.